Hi, I'm Victoria, your host, and welcome to Eyes on Crime. Today I want to examine 5 critical inconsistencies in Sergio Barraza's statements. These discrepancies are important to highlight because they raise questions about his version of the events surrounding his wife's murder. Before we get started, I want to make something very clear. I'm not saying Sergio had anything to do with his wife's death. However, I have noticed several contradictions in his statements that I find suspicious. If there are other known instances of dishonesty or inconsistency from Sergio that I'm unaware of, I'd love for viewers to share them in the comments. All right, with that out of the way, let's dive in. Sergio changed his story about when the garage sale signs were put out. In an early press conference, he confirmed that the signs were placed out Friday morning, not the night before.
I believe Mr. Barraza told me, and Sergio, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that morning they had gone out and put out signs. Yeah. So they only put out signs that morning. They didn't have it out the night before, and there really wasn't a lot of chatter or postings about their upcoming garage sale.
But in later interviews, he stated the signs were put out on Thursday night, the night before the garage sale.
And then whenever we place signs the night before, we placed 2 signs, one at the entrance of our neighborhood and one just down the road.
Why does this matter? Because it contradicts key evidence. Surveillance footage shows a suspicious black truck scoping out the house at 2 a.m. on Friday, hours before the signs were supposedly put out. If the signs weren't placed until later that morning, how would a random attacker know a garage sale was even going to happen? At first glance, it might seem like a small mistake, but it's an important detail. Sergio would have been recounting actions from just hours before, not years ago. Putting out garage sale signs isn't something you can forget or mix up easily. It's an intentional task that requires planning. If Sergio did lie about this, what would he gain? A lot. Let's consider the theory that Sergio planned his wife's murder. If he originally told police the signs were put out on Friday morning, the footage of the truck at 2 a.m. would prove that the attack wasn't random. To protect himself, Sergio might have later changed his story, saying the signs were put out Thursday evening to allow for the possibility of a random attacker. And it worked. Many sources now claim the signs were put out on Thursday night, conveniently ignoring his earlier statements. He says he put 2 signs out, one at the front of the neighborhood and one at Huffsman and Kirkendall Road, around 6 or 7 in the evening. That's not that late. That's not in the middle of the night when someone might get confused. So how did he get it wrong? On the Who Killed Liz Barraza website, it clearly states that any timeline entry marked in red was verified by police. But not everything is in red. If it wasn't verified, then it's in black. The timeline says he put out signs Thursday night, but that entry is not in red, meaning the police have not confirmed it. If they had footage showing Sergio or Liz loading signs into their vehicle and leaving Thursday night, wouldn't they have verified that detail? But they haven't, so why not? Did Sergio help set up for the garage sale or not? Because depending on which interview you listen to, the answer changes. In one interview on the case with Paula Zahn, he said he did not help. He claimed he had an early call for work and he couldn't stay. Simple enough, right? He had to leave.
Sergio said most mornings he would have been there to help Liz set up. But that day, he had an early call for work at his flooring job. What time do you think you left for work that day?
I would say it was 6:47.
But then, in a different interview, he told a completely different story. Now he says that he did help. Not only that, but he claimed he wasn't even worried about being late for work. He said he stayed behind to help Liz set up tables and even move the treadmill. So which version is the truth?
I remember staying late because I wanted to help her with like all the big stuff, the treadmill, the tables. I didn't want her to carry that all by herself, so I just was like, I'm going to be late, and it is what it is. I wanted to help my wife.
It's not just a simple mix-up. These are 2 completely different statements about the morning Liz was murdered. One version has him leaving early for work, while the other one has him staying behind to help his wife, despite the fact that he needs to leave for work. That's not just a minor detail. It changes his entire timeline. Even more important than whether Sergio helped Liz set up for the garage sale, Sergio has said the very last thing he did before leaving was tell Liz, "I love you." But is that really what happened?
Did Liz seem like her normal self that morning?
Yeah, she was happy. I kissed her and said, I love you, and just kind of took off.
This video comes from a well-known YouTuber, Welsh Chappie, who has thoroughly researched the case. It captures the final moments before Sergio leaves. I want you to see it for yourself exactly as it is. I haven't cut anything out because I think it's important for you to hear everything, even the moments of silence.
You want me to help set up or what? What night?
Now, some parts are hard to make out, but one thing seems clear. Sergio asks Liz, "Do you need any help?" And she says, "No." Then there's something else. Some believe he mutters something under his breath. Some think he calls her a name, others aren't sure. That part is up for debate. But what isn't debatable is his tone. He doesn't sound worn. He doesn't sound like a husband saying a sweet goodbye to his wife. He sounds agitated, and then he leaves. But it's not just that he leaves. It's how he leaves. He slams the van door. He speeds off. It's fast. It's abrupt. It doesn't feel like just another morning like he keeps describing in interviews. And the most important detail, he doesn't say, "I love you." So why would he claim, "I love you," were his last words? Why would he change his story? What is there to hide? If "I love you" wasn't the last thing he said, then why would he claim it was? Sergio has also given conflicting statements about where he was. In a text message to a Reddit user, Welsh Chappie, he specifically stated, "When I left Liz, I went to Lowe's for work." However, in an interview with Nancy Gray, when she asked him where he was the morning of, he described his destination as a construction shop nearby, a store like Lowe's.
you stated that you're in wood flooring, and you were a contractor going to meet who and where?
My employees that I worked with at a construction shop nearby.
They were open at 7 in the morning.
Yes, it was like a Lowe's, so they open at 6 a.m. or so.
That's an odd way to phrase it. Most people don't say they went to a store like Lowe's if they actually went to Lowe's. His wording suggested it may not have actually been Lowe's and instead a store simply like it, which raises the question, where was he exactly? A crucial detail to consider, if he went to Lowe's or any other construction store, there would be security footage confirming his arrival. Yet the official website, Who Killed Liz Barraza, makes no mention of him arriving at any stores. It only notes when he left home. His exact location during that time isn't just unverified, it isn't mentioned at all on the official timeline. So where was he that morning? And why hasn't that part of the timeline been confirmed? After being questioned, Detective Ritchie stated that Sergio didn't rush to the hospital. Instead, he stayed around to visit with neighbors and talk with the media.
Did he seem to be in a hurry to get to the hospital to check on Liz?
No, when I released him, he still kind of stuck around to talk with neighbors, with media. If that was me and my wife was shot and barely alive, I would be getting to the hospital as soon as I could.
According to the official timeline on the Who Killed Liz Barraza website, Sergio did not arrive at the hospital until the afternoon. But in an interview, Liz's parents said they arrived around 8:45 a.m., and Liz's brother and his wife were already there. So what excuse did Sergio give for taking so long? When questioned, he claimed, allegedly, that he didn't realize how serious it was.
You'd heard stories on the news of people getting shot and being perfectly fine. I never suspected I'd get there and they'd tell me that she's not going to make it.
No, you don't get life-flighted unless it's serious. Come on now. He heard the gunshots, he heard his wife screaming. Anyone else would have raced to the hospital. In an interview, Liz's mother voiced that she was initially frustrated, saying she wanted to know what was taking him so long. I've personally heard his mom say that in the interview. That's what I'm referring to. However, when I was trying to find the clip, I was unable to do so. I'll try to keep digging and find it, and when I do, I'll post it here. Then there's supposedly another excuse. Allegedly, Sergio was trying to find someone to take care of his dog. Really? That thing is so tiny. Anyone would have been glad to help. We're not talking about a pit bull where people might hesitate. So again, why didn't he rush to the hospital? When he knew his wife was shot and injured, life-flighted to a hospital, why did it take him hours to get to the hospital? What was so important that he didn't rush there? I think we all know any excuse is not good enough. During the investigation, Detective Ritchie revealed that Liz had a $250,000 life insurance policy, which included a double indemnity clause, raising the payout to $500,000 due to her homicide. Sergio was the sole beneficiary.
Did Liz's husband have anything to gain from the murder?
So when I was interviewing Sergio, I was like, does she have any life insurance? And he said, yes, she has it through her company. He didn't think it was that much.
Detectives investigated that claim and made a shocking discovery. The policy Liz had was far larger than Sergio had led them to believe. What was her life insurance policy worth?
The main policy was worth $500,000.
And there was another wrinkle. That death benefit had ballooned upwards from the original $250,000 because of a double indemnity clause triggered by Liz's murder.
However, when questioned, he told investigators that Liz only had a small policy, a statement that was clearly inaccurate. It's highly likely that Liz mentioned the policy to him at some point, but even if she hadn't, wouldn't he have seen paperwork related to it? Life insurance companies typically send policy details through the mail and statements. As a full beneficiary, it's difficult to believe he was completely unaware. So the question is, did Sergio truly not know, or was he downplaying its significance? Nothing that I've presented proves Sergio's guilt, but the inconsistencies in his statements raise serious questions. Some believe he's innocent, while others suspect he knows more than he's letting on. What isn't up for debate is that his shifting story and unusual behavior leave room for doubt. Whoever committed this crime knew Liz's schedule, was aware of the garage sale, something only a handful of people knew, according to Sergio himself, and stood to gain from her death. So who do you think it was? Who killed Liz Barraza? Let me know in the comments. And thank you for listening to Eyes on Crime.